the cats to find. The world was full of poor damn things. Sometimes Fish's grandfather looked at Bread with the same kind of pity in his eyes, but then he'd seem to catch himself and say something about how grateful he was for Bread's hard work that day, and how he hoped Bread would be back the next. Fish had seen the same looks of pity in the eyes of other grown-ups when they got around Bread. He'd seen it in the eyes of the sheriff when he came around, and even the gas station clerk, when Bread trudged up to the counter in his ragged sneakers to buy a candy bar with money Fish's grandpa had given him. There was pity, but also wariness, like they were just waiting for Bread to turn out like his dad, waiting for him to pocket the candy and bolt. Bread was poor, and his dad was mean, but Fish disliked the way grown-ups looked at his friend. He didn't like what it did in his heart, how it made his friendship bear some sort of shame. "I want to save him," said Fish. Bread nodded and grinned. "Me too," he said. The boys had been walking their bikes toward Claypot when they found the turtles. The overwintered snappers emerged from a dried culvert ditch. The tracks were evident. But instead of clawing their way through the culvert and into the marsh, they clawed their way into the dry dirt of the tilled-up cornfield. They wouldn't find water if they went that way. And in another week, they'd get beaten up by the planters. There were hundreds of them, like little round stones pushed up by a thaw. The boys leaned on their handlebars, watching all the doomed turtles. It had been a good day until then, and doom would ruin it. Before they found the turtles, they sat in the pine trees behind Fish's grandpa's barn. And before that, they lit off firecrackers in the barn's silos. Fish loved lighting off firecrackers in silos, the way the air was so dank and still, the way the match flared and the fuse sparked, and you covered your ears and squinted your eyes because the darkness was about to become so filled with noise and light. Lighting firecrackers always made Fish feel as if something big was about to happen, big enough to change a regular day. You just had to wait for the fuse, and then the noise and smoke would take you somewhere. And when things got quiet and dark again, you could always light off more firecrackers, as long as you had more matches. It was a lot like Fish's friendship with Bread these last 3 summers he spent at his grandpa's farm. Fish was a fuse, and Bread was the match. Or maybe it was the other way around. Either way, summer was too tame if you had one without the other. Once school let out, his mom would drive him up from town to drop him off, and Fish's grandpa would be waiting on the porch. And Fish would hug his mom and bolt from the car with his duffel packed for weeks of fields and trees and rivers. Both boys were covered in cornfield dust up to their armpits from gathering the turtles, and the turtles themselves were white with it, like they'd been shook up in a bag of frying flour Fish's mom used to batter chicken halves. It was a dry spring. The tractors that dragged the soil smooth last week raised dust clouds that hung in the air for hours. A frigid winter with too much snow, and now a spring without rain. The winter was hard on the wildlife. When what snow there was first melted, the boys found 3 deer lying dead in the woods beneath a cedar tree, eyes milky and open. It looked as if the animals had grown too tired of the cold and decided to lie down for a while, amazed that a winter so cold could exist even this far north. "Poor damn things," Fish had said, after hesitantly prodding one with a stick to prove death didn't bother him. On the opposite side of the asphalt road, the ditch met marsh water. The water was cold and dark with silt, and the wet bank seeped into the toes of the boys' shoes as they squatted down to free the snappers. As they lowered each leathery creature into the water,